On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking about just a little bit of news and a whole lot of your feedback. We'll be getting to that right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends chat about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
Dave, you say we have news, you say?
A little bit. Just a little bit.
That's you saying. Bolt.
No. Hell. Alright, yeah. So, I do want to let everybody know, Season 1 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds is out on Blu Ray. It is currently available. Right. You can get it on Steelbook. I have seen a few reviews that are saying that, like, the picture looks better in the streaming, obviously, because it's Blu-ray. But the reason to buy the Blu-ray is going to be all of the tons of deleted scenes they have, including like a flashback to 10 years ago when Pike met Allura. Remember the planet where the kid has to be sacrificed?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They have a flashback to that. They have a lot of extended scenes. They have a gag reel. Apparently, there are a lot of features on the Blu-ray, so neat. I would say, I mean, I'm going to get it anyway because I'm that guy.
Yeah, but, you are. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. Just like, it's worth it to get the TNG Blu-rays because they have extended episodes that aren't available on streaming. And Akiva Goldsman said that, like on March 15th, he said, today or tomorrow we're announcing the air date for the second season, which that didn't happen, by the way. That didn't happen. They still haven't announced it. They did not announce?
Okay.
No. But he did say they have just started filming the third season.
Very cool.
So we haven't gotten an official announcement that that's happening, but they are filming, so.
You mean when it's happening? We do know that it's happening. They're doing a third season.
Well, apparently they are. Like, Paramount has not put out an official announcement that they are doing a third season yet.
Oh, but they are filming it, so surely they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha, yeah. Cool.
I loved this, and I hate it as well. Like, someone asked Jonathan Frakes if there was any hope for anything else in the 32nd century after Discovery, and he said, don't hold your breath.
Well, that gives me low hopes for the final season, because it feels like that will mean they can't take any big swings. You know, like they're going to have to keep riding this sort of line where we don't find anything out about the past while knowing this thing about the future. I don't know. It's a really strange thing they're doing where they it's by setting Discovery where they did, especially with that Calypso episode, all this stuff. It's like they've done all this stuff to set these benchmarks for things that like are happening in the distant future on a show that if they continue their trend, who knows, in 30 years they might reach that level of the future and have to like live up to all these things or just ignore Discovery, which sucks. So yeah, that's weird.
I wouldn't be surprised, and the way I would do it if I were them, I would use that portal from Picard Season 2. I would bring Discovery into the 25th century, and then we could play with the idea of, because we know that they're using mobile emitters from an alternate, like whatever it was, 29th, 30th century.
Right.
So, from Voyager. So, like, I would love to see Discovery, or a version of Discovery. Like, the ship could get split or something, leaving the Calypso version in the future, and then we could get, like, our Discovery into the past, into the 25th century, and start altering the timeline, introducing a lot of the technology we saw in the 32nd century in the 25th century.
Yeah.
As well as be able to like actually like hang out with Discovery characters from time to time if we need to, but
yeah, well, and that'd be rad. I'd love to see those characters get infused, because it does seem like most of the stuff is still residing in that like post TNG era, and I'd love for them to stay there and like tell the story in chronological order.
A little bit, yeah. I can see that.
Still, you have your. I'd love if they want to do a prequel here and there to like fill in gaps in canon stuff like that's great. But jumping forward to the future, let's just like calm down. Let's just stay chronological for a while.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel at the moment. Like, I just want to be close to like characters that we can revisit and like more familiar territory. Because like the 32nd century, like I was very excited about that, and I wanted to see where everything had gone, but it was so far in the future, and so much was different, and there was so much that they didn't tap into so far that it feels so distant for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I hear you.
To start this off on the feedback, earlier this week, I was talking to my wife, Bethany, about my theory that Species 8472 is involved with the changelings, and she didn't remember who they were.
Okay.
I showed her a picture of the 8472 to refresh her memory, and her response was, he doesn't look 24 either.
It's very good. It's very good.
I just
Funny
enjoyed
lady.
that so much.
Funny lady, your wife. So you mentioned that I had completely forgotten about 8472's ability to shapeshift into humans. So I went back and rewatched a scene of just like them learning that 8472 was. Do you remember the scene at all?
I don't.
It showed that they could like replicate organs and appear to be human, and it was very similar. They were like, we had to get down to the organ level before the shapeshifting breaks down, which was incredibly similar to the scene in this episode of Picard. That was the biggest evidence I've seen yet to like that could be the case. And the other thing so we know they are shapeshifting. We know that the changelings hate solids, like that's their whole thing. And we know, or that you need to like rule the solids or whatever. And then we also know that 8472 has telepathy.
Yes.
There's a line in this episode that made me think you're right, and like this theory a lot, because in Crusher, when Crusher's like freaking out at one point, he hears his mother's voice in his head, and it says, "Connect us." And I'm thinking, if this is all possible, if this is all like a real thing, maybe somehow they need Crusher, which would be a reason they'd be seeking him out, to somehow be a bridge between the two peoples, like somehow connect those two changeling or two shapeshifting peoples or whatever. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why they'd need him. Maybe there's something in his past. Maybe there's some genetic thing, whatever. But they seem to need him to connect them, but we don't know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, someone pointed out to me and reminded me earlier this week that, I don't remember who it was, but they reminded me that the changelings turned Odo into a solid to punish him.
That's true. They did.
So clearly they have some sort of capability to do that. Yeah.
Could be that's what's happened with Jack. It just, I don't really want Jack to be a changeling. I just think like all of this character development we've gotten for 5 episodes would be like really kind of wasted for Picard if he spent his whole final season getting to know a son that wasn't his son. You know what I mean? Like the whole first 5 episodes are about him coming to terms. So I just, from a storytelling perspective, think it's a really bad idea if he's not Jack Crusher, son of Picard, you know?
Yep.
It seems like a really dumb thing. It's going to make me like furious if we spend 10 like if it waits till the final episode and we find out he's a changeling, it's going to be like, oh, we spent the whole last season of Picard with him learning to reconcile with the family he never knew, and then that wasn't the family he never knew. Like, that'll feel dumb as... Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that episode of TNG where Picard thinks he has a son?
No, I don't. I'm not off the top of my head.
It's from Bloodlines. I remember back in 94, you were convinced that the guy playing his possibly son was Jim Carrey, and I was like, that is not Jim Carrey. We had a big conversation about it. He does look a lot like Jim Carrey. But at the end of the episode, it turns out he's not Picard's son. And I was really disappointed because he spent the entire episode getting to know this guy. And then and they formed a bond, and then it wasn't his son. And if they just do an extended version of that here, I am going to be freaking pissed.
Yeah, that'll be really dumb. I'd forgotten about that episode. I'm looking it up now, and I remember this guy, and he so looks like Jim Carrey. There's one shot here of him in a vest smiling on Google, and it's like, man, he looks like Jim Carrey. But he's too old to be Jim Carrey, like at that time period. But like, man, he looks like Jim Carrey. But yeah, I would be livid if that's the case. And like, they could try to do something different, like, oh, he's a changeling, but there is a real son, and he's over here. But then it's still, you wasted half the season. If he's not his son, we have wasted half the season on drama that didn't matter. Like, it still matters to the Federation, of course, like finding out of this plot and everything. But like, the whole like him, I mean, the whole reason he went to war like with Vadic instead of turning over Jack Crusher was because it was his son, you know, which was a questionable decision in the first place.
The only thing I can think that would make it work for me is if there's a real Jack, because clearly if there's a real Jack and Changeling Jack is keyed into his memories, so real Jack, if they're like mentally linked or something, and so real Jack is getting all this, you know, whatever.
That's just a lot. That's just a lot of
It's not a lot if 8472 is involved and they are like telepathically linking this changeling to Jack Crusher.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, yeah, like I guess if he's like literally controlling this Jack Crusher until such a time as they need this Jack Crusher to go off what the normal Jack Crusher would do, sure, that could work. But that just feels like a lot of steps to get back to Jack Crusher, which I'm like, I like this character a lot, and I really don't want him to just be a changeling or not be around or whatever. I don't know.
There's a point where you're like, at what point if this is a big changeling plot and he's always been a changeling, then this plot has been in action for like 24 years.
Right. Or unless Beverly's also a changeling.
Yes.
Then it could all be like Beverly could have died a while ago. Like whatever. Like Beverly could have been gone. And this could have all been a plot that was just enabled just recently, you know?
Yeah. I hope it's not that.
Yeah, I do too. Because then that ruins all that great character development we got at the beginning with Crusher and with Beverly and Picard. Like, it just, the changeling thing can be a great twist, but when you are using it as like the main character development for your big character, your big legacy character, so I'm just saying, like, I don't want that to be the case. Yeah, but we'll see.
I have to admit, I'm getting a little nervous because they keep, like, Beverly keeps saying "trust no one," and I'm like, "Hell, they're saying it to us."
Yeah.
Let's get into some of this feedback. First up, it's a conspiracy from Timothy Castillo. Okay, so this was TNG Season 1, but with changelings instead. I am really wanting those bugs from Season 1 to be the reason the changelings are able to form organs and blood. From the episode Conspiracy, if you'll recall.
Oh, we recall.
I know those are probably just gone now, never to return, but seriously, if they brought back Ro, which was awesome, I almost started crying when I saw her. When they figured out each other were themselves, and when she died, goodness, can't they bring back the little creepy little bugs that they said were coming back? They said they would be returning at the end of the episode. They never returned. Integrate them into the changelings, is what I say. Instead of the founders and the Jem'Hadar, the founders and creepy nubbin bugs. Probably can roll back the Tal Shiar stuff surrounding Sayla and Laris, unless they go in the other direction and they get Sayla and the Tal Shiar to help get rid of the changeling invasion. Laris could be Picard's point of contact. The transporter's idea is the most terrifying way they've ever written their use anyway. Transport and be killed in the process, replaced by a changeling. Oh, God. That's what I took from that. Crazy. Last thing. We're totally getting Janeway in this season, right? I mean, she's been mentioned multiple times, almost once an episode it seems like. I would love a moment or two between her and Seven, unless we get a Shaw and Seven buddy cop spinoff, then I wouldn't mind it being saved for that. Haha, you're reinstated. That was perfect. I'm going to walk out of this email and let you guys get your head canon straight.
We're trying.
Timothy sends a new email. It says, a fluidic link. Dave, you blew my mind. I was puzzling over how in the world they could possibly stop the changelings because they could not stop them in the Dominion War. They only stopped because they were sick and dying, and Odo convinced them to stop after delivering the cure. But now, no Odo, unfortunately. But Species 8472 lives in fluidic space. Could it be that they would have some kind of experience with the changelings? Perhaps changelings entered their fluidic space to try to live there, and now they are enemies. 8472 was left off in Voyager as being at peace with the Federation after Chakotay and Tuvok found they had a whole space station to practice an invasion on Earth by using some newly created transforming technology. Maybe the changelings stole that tech and are using it to increase their abilities. Could 8472 be using Jack as some kind of arbiter or emissary to fight the changelings? Whatever is in contact with them does not seem to like them very much, considering how he seemed to be inspired to dispatch the four that were posing as Starfleets. I like your theory, Dave, is basically what I'm trying to say here. Live long and prosper. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I agree. I like the theory a lot. I didn't get it because I just didn't remember their shapeshifting. And then when I went back and looked, because I guess when they're introduced, they're not really known as shapeshifters, especially not ones that can turn human form. And then it's not until when I watched that episode that they say they worked out a technology that allows them to shapeshift into human form, which is what Castillo mentions there. So absolutely, it could be they're sharing that technology, or the changeling stole that technology, or this faction or whatever. Makes a lot of sense. I think it makes tons of sense. And they want to rule the galaxy. The changelings do. The 8472 want to put a damper on all these solids that are invading their space. And it totally makes sense that they would both just okay, we'll work together to destroy all these solids that are bothering us. And then you guys have your fluidic space and we'll have our space, and we're good to go.
And then we'll turn every planet into a giant bucket.
Bucket party. It's like a key party, but with buckets. If whoever Jack is connected to does not seem to like the changelings very much, that's a really good point. Because if it's 8472 controlling him, let's say, and I mean, what if some of these changelings are, well, I guess we know that the one on the table, at least we think we know, is a regular changeling. It just has the power to create organs. Because in Voyager, when they finally did turn it regular or whatever, it turned into a big 8472 creature, not goo. So, and that's how they changed. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to parse it through.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible the changelings stole some tech or something from 8472, and then 8472 is coming after them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. There are always possibilities, Spock said.
That's true.
Matthew Davis sends us an email. Says, hello, Matt and David. Well, hey. I decided to explore more of the Pandaverse and found the Star Trek Quadrant. We're halfway through Season 3 of Picard, and I have a few thoughts on everything. There seem to be some similarities with The Wrath of Khan for a while. Hey, if they're going to draw inspiration, at least they're drawing from the best of the original Trek. Beverly's reason for keeping Jack a secret makes sense. There was a vengeful Ferengi who came after Picard twice during the TNG run, so she knows how persistent his enemies can be. Could she have let Picard know? Maybe. But if Picard gets a visit from an old friend / former lover with her son of unknown paternity, a Pocklid could figure that out. Could they? I'm not sure what's up with Jack's visions and sudden fighting skills. I hope it's not something contrived, like his real father is the ghost that Beverly hooked up with way back when.
There's a meme going around that showed like Picard not responding to Beverly's text or something, and someone's like, "So you got to respond, Picard. She doesn't like to be ghosted." And then Picard just looks like, oh yes, she does.
Matthew continues, so glad to see Worf, one of my favorites from the TNG crew, and so weird to see him as the good cop with Raffi as the bad cop. I'll agree with that. I actually like Shaw. They could have made him into the stereotypical by-the-book commanding officer we've seen so often. Instead, he's still dealing with PTSD from Wolf 359 and has probably spent his career living up to the sacrifice of his comrades. You can't help but feel for the asshole from Chicago.
I agree.
Yeah, I love Shaw. It does feel like they could be setting up multiple future projects, the crew of the Titan, Worf and Raffi, and Jack, or maybe all on one show. Star Trek The Second Dominion War?
Ooh.
I wouldn't mind a Second Dominion War necessarily. But
I wouldn't mind it, especially if the rules have changed a lot. You know, like we had the Dominion War, kind of like World War I, World War II, or whatever. You know, like the Dominion War and the Dominion War II. But this time it's like, they've infiltrated different governments. They tried to bring the Romulans in on their side, for instance. It could absolutely fall along different lines, just like they had the Cardassians last time. Different solids, such a rich area to mine because of the way that they colonize other species and control them with both fear and with like deception and shape-shifting, you know?
Yeah, I would watch Star Trek DW2.
Yeah. Me too.
I'd watch all of it. I'd watch anything Star Trek, though.
Yeah, I know. It's like, of course you would, Dave.
Well, we got a podcast to do. I'm going to watch it. As if I didn't have a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Matthew continues, some of the graphics in the closing credits have me wondering what we might see coming up. Didn't they say Geordi is in charge of the Fleet Museum? They've shown a graphic of it along with some of the ships on display, including the Voyager and the Enterprise A. And we have two characters with command experience without ships to command. I'm not holding my breath, but can you imagine a battle scene where Picard is leading a small fleet consisting of the Titan, the Voyager, and the Enterprise A? Oh man, don't put that hope in my heart, man.
Yeah.
Don't put that hope in my heart, but you know what? I know Terry Matalas is a huge fan of the movies. He loves the Enterprise A. That's why the Titan looks so much like her.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I've got that hope in my heart.
Yeah. Thanks. You've really ruined David's life just now.
Yeah. There's no way they can do a show better than that for me right now.
I see that is no pleasing you.
He also says, rest in peace, Rolaren. I get the feeling there could be other losses before this season concludes. Yeah, I gotta say, that feeling too.
I didn't get to talk about it much I was really tired when we recorded last week. I mentioned it on the cast a little bit, but this freaking Adderall shortages got me all messed up. And I have always been we've been doing these 2 a.m. ones and they haven't been bothersome. I've been really enjoying them, but like last week I was so out of it. And, and I didn't get a nap and I didn't have my Adderall. I had to take the extended release stuff. So just like, I can just function at night if I need to. And man, I rewatched it today and I love this episode. And particularly the Rolaren sacrifice, is just really good, and her saying, I'm going to do what you did for me. I'm going to give you a fighting chance. Like such a great line, great connections to the past. And just a really badass, like her crashing into a nacelle, and then the Intrepid, like rising slowly like a beast over the hull of the Titan is awesome. It's really awesome.
Did you see the bit where Terry Matalas was saying that he was really glad that so many people are reacting well to that shot of the Intrepid like getting hit and then rising back up because he really wanted to like make it look like you were like invoking the rage of a dragon.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Like it looks like a beast rising from the water or something. Yeah. Totally.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for finding this Star Trek Ucast. Appreciate you, man.
Matthew Davis. It's like both of our names turned into a full name.
It is not far off.
It's not. I'm impressed.
The Pandaverse has a lot of Matthews, like people that call themselves Matthew instead of Matt.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey on YouTube says, in relation to Jack's visions, one possibility is that Jack has bioadapted native nanoprobes from his paternal side, and he's hearing the call of the collective in some way. I don't think so.
Ooh, interesting.
It would be cool. It'd be a cool idea, but I'm pretty sure somewhere they said that when Picard has sex, he ejaculates the nanoprobes onto the neck and chest, and then the sperm into the thing.
Goodness, Dave. Goodness.
What?
Nope. Nothing.
What?
You always got to go to such a weird place
Depraved?
with it.
Yes.
So depraved.
Maybe. I know.
We're just having a light little clean Star Trek conversation.
He doesn't insert the Borg dick, Jeff.
Yeah, they removed most of his implants, but not the second. Not the second member.
Yeah, they started to, and he was like, no, keep that one.
Oh, goodness. But no, I think, okay, so if he was somehow Borg related, it would make more sense than him killing all the changelings instead of, I guess, like, trying to communicate with them or something. If, like, the Borg are trying to, like, conquer the changelings, like, maybe the Borg have sensed the changelings as, like, a power that they need to take on, and he could be there, like, and maybe he's been, like, commissioned to do so, and maybe that's why the changelings are looking for him, you know?
Yeah, by Jurati Queen or something. Like,
Yeah.
Could be. But Terry Metalis has said that it is Beverly's voice that we keep hearing in his head.
Well, yeah, it's definitely Beverly's voice, but that could be... I'm just thinking that's, like, psychological, right? Like, he's... Whatever is trying to tell him to do stuff is using his mother's voice to stay, like, a friend to him or whatever. That's what I'm thinking.
Might be. Good call. Maybe. And you want to finish this out with Stu?
Yeah, up, Stu. Come bring it in.
Bring it in, Stu. With an email titled, Row, row, row your boat.
Very nice.
You bastard. Hey, guys.
The woman is dead.
Have respect for the dead. Hey, guys. I'm glad Jack put his foot down and made it clear to Jean-Luc that he's never, ever, 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 ever going to be a part of Starfleet. So relieved we've drawn a line under this issue and it will not be revisited again. And Jean-Luc's palpable disappointment is just going to be a realistic thing that he's going to have to deal with. 100%.
I feel like there's some sarcasm dripping on that.
Yeah, no. I think he might be enlisted by the end of the season. How dare they tease us with a Morn appearance, only to go with this Kryn guy? That said, I love a logical Vulcan crime boss. He's going to make you an offer you can't rationally dismantle. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Metalis pointed this out, and a lot of other people caught it too. Kryn said that Sneed was his brother, and they grew up in the streets in whatever it was, District 7.
Yeah.
The actor who played Kryn and the actor who played Sneed were on 12 Monkeys together as brothers from another mother who grew up in District 7.
Huh. That's fun.
Yeah. Stu continues, the focus on the underworld with the Worf and Raffi plot just makes me want a Federation police procedural more than just another Starfleet show.
Ooh.
Only if they can go somewhere other than freaking Metalis.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being a really fun show. Like, I mean, we always talk about how they over-utopianize the Federation, and they're not really doing that anymore. Nowadays, Federation's like... it seems to have fallen into disrepair compared to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, there's a bunch of damn changelings in charge of it now.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Changelings and Romulans, man.
Yeah, changelings and Romulans. It's true. But I could totally see a good like procedural show. Like we always talk about the balance of episodic versus week to week. Like, it'd be cool to have like a really episodic Star Trek show, but it's just because it's like literally like crime and punishment, like Law and Order, like
yeah.
I love a good like ethical battle, like Measure of a Man in a courtroom, like how cool would it be to see like they track down a crime and there's like investigators looking and there's people trying to like prove the case and like figure out what happened. I'd be absolutely on board with a Law and Order, but in Starfleet.
But you bring up Worf, and I'm like, Worf and Raffi, and I'm like, I want it to be less of a police procedural show and more like Kung Fu, The Legend Continues,
No,
like,
I didn't catch that you said that was going to be the Worf and Raffi show. Like, yeah, I don't want that either.
Yeah.
I need them to, I mean, I guess I could see them like accepting cases and like being like sort of beat cops out there doing their thing, but I want them like roaming, like like Ronins or whatever, like taking on, and she's like his like little Padawan going around the galaxy. Yeah, I'd like it.
Yep. Stu says, since we're bringing up stuff Picard did from Generations, let me ask about something I've always wondered. Did he really bury Kirk, probably the most venerated person in Starfleet history, in an unmarked grave and then not tell anyone else about it? No, I don't think that's what happened. I think he buried him and he put the thing there, the communicator there, and they obviously knew that he was doing something there. Like the Starfleet shuttle like flew down right in front of Picard standing at Kirk's grave. So
yeah. And if you read The Return, Kirk's body was exhumed by the Borg and turned into a Borg.
Yeah, because we're considering that canon.
Definitely canon. It's such a good book. Go check it out. The Return by William Shatner.
AKA really Judith and Garfield Reeve Stevens, who are really good writers.
But it's William Shatner on the cover, baby. I ate that stuff up when I was 15.
Me too.
Or 12, 13. I don't know when this book came out.
I was reading the last one in college. It was like 9 books.
I tried to go back because and find them on Audible, and they do have them on Audible, but they're truncated or whatever. They're abridged.
Oh, God. Yeah,
and I was like, but I also am not going to have time to go read them. So I was like, but do I want to pay like $9 a pop for the abridged versions? I don't know.
Yeah, man, I loved those books, and they were really a lot of fan wank.
Oh yeah,
but one of the things Judith and Garfield Reeve Stevens does really well is like mesh. They know canon really well, and they like mesh a lot of great stuff together, and like the daughter of M'Benga and hanging out with Picard and Kirk and whatnot, and Admiral McCoy, and I just love that kind of stuff. But anyway, Stu continues. Ro fudgin' Laren. Yas. I don't know how to read that. Stu. He says the one thing I've wanted Picard to incorporate, which I never thought they would. I hope she ended up with Thomas Riker and passed on his regards to Will. Okay. Really getting their money's worth out of that 10 Forward set, I see. Yeah, you've mentioned that one, Stu. A few times. Stu says, turning off the safety protocols on the holodeck just a button press on an always accessible panel weighs tie at a bar someone would stand at and possibly brush against. Seems like not a good safety practice to me. I mean, if Murph can just sit on a panel and fire torpedoes on purpose.
Yeah, I was assuming there was some sort of code he had to put in or something. Something that would make it hard to do with a butt.
And I apologize, I didn't read that sentence very well, but I'm not going to reread it. Stu says, I have been rehearsing this conversation for 30 years. Wow, that's really not a lame-sounding thing to admit to, Jean-Luc. Come on, man. Come on. They're in the future, man. It's like Roddenberry. They're not afraid to admit when they've done stupid shit like that. There's no judgment. It's all cool. They're evolved. That's why Jean-Luc doesn't wear a toupee. Or ever worried about using 24th or 25th century technology to give him his hair back. Stu says, yeah, the Maquis were the OG. The Federation isn't right all the time, people. This new breed of rogue characters are poseurs by comparison.
Poseurs? Like
Poseurs.
Is that a reference? Poseur?
I don't know. Yeah, it's another term for poser, but...
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
I thought, I know poser, but poseur, is that like the French version? I don't know. I was like, I was trying to get the combination. Stu always has such clever wordplay. Thought I was missing something.
Yeah. Stu says, the old fight to the death. That's the TOS fight music in case you didn't get it.
Immediately thought of that when he was telling him to fight to the death.
I thought Worf's talk of sacrifice before the fight meant he'd be giving up one of his backup organs to sell the deception. His second spleen, for example. If I had a nickel for every time Michelle Forbes played a tough officer in a space opera TV show, which has Ronald D. Moore connections, who gets killed by a life form who specialized in infiltration, I'd have 2 dimes. But it's weird it's happened twice. Wait, if you had a nickel for every time it's happened, you'd only have 1 dime. If it's only happened twice.
Yeah, it's true. And really, you just have 4 nickels. That's made your way to a cash register.
Stu says, why do I get the feeling Forbes only agreed to appear again if they killed her off at the end? Oh, totally. Totally. I believe that. Stu says, I didn't know, though, about how they're totally focused on how Picard relates to Ro, but ignored Riker's whole thing with her. They banged when they both had amnesia. I didn't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
Riker has banged so many ladies on TNG, I think he has bang amnesia. He probably didn't even remember that it happened.
It's just bangnesia.
Yeah, he's probably like, I've had sex with so many Bajorans, I don't even remember if she was one of them. He just remembers vaginas with the little nose ridge on the top.
Oh, goodness. And we're back. And we're back, folks.
I mean, isn't that how it works?
Yeah. Yep.
Don't they all have... I feel like that's something Lower Decks needs to address.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever the forehead/nose ridges are... Actually, Vulcans, they could have pointed labia. The genitals should reflect the ridge system on the head.
Yeah. Just to provide a little difference. A little more difference than just the same old with ridges. You gotta put ridges everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, you can't just have like a normal human genital, right?
Sure, Dave, sure.
There's a reason I related so much to Brody Bruce and Mallrats.
Yeah, exactly. He's got this obsession. Stan Lee would not approve.
I don't think I have an obsession. It's just it's just kind of there every once in a while. Like, oh yeah, they probably have something weird. And I was right about the Klingons.
Stan Lee would not approve, but somehow I feel like Roddenberry would.
Oh, Roddenberry absolutely would. I mean, look, Discovery is the one that brought it back to the forefront with me with their Klingons with 2 dicks. Okay, they made that canon.
Yep.
Klingons have 2 penises.
Yeah. It's true.
Now I'm wondering if the Vulcan nerve pinch isn't also a sexual act.
Everything's sexual here on the old Star Trek. Just us humans are too repressed to realize it.
I'm not repressed. I'll ask. I want to know. Stu says, another good episode. We're at the halfway point, and maybe that 10 grueling fucking hours line last week won't come back to haunt them at this rate. Take care, Stu. Thank you, Stu.
Yeah, thanks, Stu.
I'm sorry I'm depraved.
This is that
Except I'm
disclaimer that we always give here on the show that if you're sending feedback, Dave might turn it sexual. If
you're making a TV show, I'll probably turn it sexual.
It's true. Stop sexualizing all our TV shows, Dave.
I can't help it, man.
It's a real problem.
Can't help it.
It's a real problem. Well, guys, thank you so much for all the feedback. I'm excited as well about the next episodes. I think this is one of the best things we've had from Star Trek. I really, really, really love it.
I do, man. I do too. I think I'm at this point in the season ready to say Terry Metalis for Alex Kurtzman's job.
Yeah, sure.
Can we just have Terry run all the things?
Yeah, I do think there is a need for a little more guidance on what they're doing globally, because there's just such a chance for these shows to like if we did get a Raffi and Worf show and a Titan show and a Janeway show or whatever, like all these shows started like materializing and they're all in the same time period, we could get that classic Star Trek thing where you can have people show up on multiple shows. But even better than that, you could lead to big crossover events and have, since you're not beholden to the TV format, you could have a big crossover movie here and there where, all of them have to come together to fight some big thing instead of, and build these characters out over the course of a season or two and then give them all a big movie. Like, man, that's the dream right there.
Yeah. MCU that shit.
Yeah, for sure. But it feels like there's an opportunity to do it here from a real organic way, let the shows grow, let them be their own thing, let them all have their own personalities and showrunners, and then lead them to something cool and big that we really care about,
Yeah.
Or Doctor Who's a good example of this, where you'd get Torchwood, Doctor Who, Sarah Jane Adventures, and then they'd have really big episodes of Doctor Who where they all intersect,
Yeah.
Love that
also,
stuff.
I think small limited series are really a good place to stay on Star Trek for a while. Do a Star Trek Janeway, do a Star Trek Titan or whatever, but keep it at 3 seasons, keep it at 30 episodes. Keep it at, do a limited series where it's just 1 season.
One of the things we've talked about before is when they try to build these shows out, they have to pay for the sets and they have to amortize those costs over a certain number of seasons, or the shows don't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we're seeing is they've made enough of these shows now and had enough bridges and had enough, they can refit a lot of these rooms to do different things. And you now have a bridge of a Titan class, or what is it called? A Neo Constitution class. They could just use that for a different Neo Constitution class. And you've got a bridge of a few different ships like that. And if you start doing that in the same time period, you start building out assets you can reuse, not to mention, of course, the digital assets you can reuse. So yeah, I think there's a lot of possibility there, but they keep making the shows so far apart. You can make the shows very different without setting them in different time periods and such. If I were showrunning Star Trek, I would definitely do limited things in other time periods. Of course, it's Star Trek. Go at it. But I would really want to see a unified era that it feels like Star Trek is now because in the past we were able to say okay, now we've moved to the 24th century or whatever, and now it feels like we're everywhere. And it just doesn't feel cohesive. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even on Next Generation, they were using the movies, 23rd century ships and models and stuff, the Miranda class from Reliant and Excelsior class. And in Star Trek 6, they basically rearranged engineering, and it was the same engineering set from TNG.
Right. And that's, I guess I'm getting at it. Like they can do that kind of stuff. It would just feel it would feel weird if they brought in like the Constitution class bridge and like ship look that they're using on Strange New Worlds right now. I know you'd hate that for different reasons, but I just mean like even if it was the 1701A exactly right out of the movies, then it's like it would still feel weird. Not to have it on an episode, but for it to be like the main ship of a show, because its power level would just be so dwarfed, which could be interesting, I guess. I mean, you could have like that Firefly effect where like, maybe you bought a old Constitution class clunker and you're making it work, in the 25th century. Like that could be fun. Like a smuggler, like living on an old, like, Constitution class, that would be cool.
I'll put this out here now, but years ago I basically put together a pitch, and I never actually sent it off, and I should have, but I put together a pitch for a series that would involve the child of Cisco from the end of DS9 going on adventures, and one of the things they do is they go on the run from Starfleet for whatever reason, and they find this old outpost that's like a junkyard. It's like a ship junkyard that's run by Miles O'Brien and Tom Paris, because Tom is so into like old ships and stuff, and they wind up either buying or in some way stealing an old Constitution class starship that's halfway functional. But yeah, I would love to see that. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah,
I think all this. So I think all the ships could have their place, like older ships, newer ships, whatever. But it's just a matter of making it work for the production schedule, and like and I think like keeping it all the same time period would allow them to do some things with their sets that would feel more cohesive, but yeah,
just like what was it? Defiant had, I think it was the Enterprise E's bridge.
Oh, did it? That's funny.
Yeah, they just moved it around, something like that. They did that kind of shit all the time.
Yeah,
in the classic days.
I never noticed.
that coffin / torpedo tube that Spock was shot out of. Man, that thing showed up on so many planets. The sunglasses case. That I remember seeing it in Generations. It was something Tolian Soren was working on. It was
those torpedoes.
The Armagosa, the Armagosa station. So
the trilithium. Was that what it was?
Yeah,
trilithium torpedoes or something like that.
Which trilithium had already been brought up in a previous episode of TNG as something different, but whatever.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not trilithium.
No, it was trilithium.
It was trilithium? All right. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Star Trek Universe podcast. We'll be back soon with more of that. We got probably not going to do a midnight watch this week. Not only because the Adderall shortage is still on, but also I'm on vacation on Wednesday. I'm going to take my family out of town, and so I'm not going to be here to do that. But we'll do it very soon. As quick as we can this week, and excited to do it.
As soon as you see episode 6, get your feedback in, and we'll be able to include it on our review, and won't have to do a separate episode for you to listen to.
I kind of like the double episodes, but
I enjoy doing them with you, but I feel like we're imposing ourselves upon our audience.
No, Dave. No, that's the wrong attitude. We're providing more content. It's great. It's great.
I don't want to insist upon myself,
No one has to listen. They're all listening by choice. It's okay, Dave. You're not imposing yourself. That's a really weird attitude to have.
It comes from like one of we went through a period where we used to do a lot of episodes on DC on Screen, and one of the listeners got mad at us and like left a negative review on Apple.
Right.
That said they flood your news feed with episode reviews.
Yeah,
I thought that was a good thing. You're getting a lot of content for free.
Right. That's one guy.
Never mind.
That's one guy.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
but you know the negative comments. The negative comments are the ones that stay.
I do, but that's the thing. The negative comments are not the ones that stay. They're the ones that stay in your head, but they're not the ones that stay in reality. The people listening are here because they like the show. And the thing is, like, okay, I get it. I do. Because we do the MCU cast. And there are times when there's, like, not enough content. And we're trying to keep the feed active. And, like, trying to do a lot of episodes that I feel like, are we even, like right now, we've got so much content. And I'm like, I know people keep saying they like the show, but I want to keep the episodes good. I want them to have, like, the best stuff. Like, I don't want them to be boring episodes. I want them to be things to... But when there's no content and no news... And like even feedback's drying up. It's like, what are we talking about this week? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to put a lot of work into it. But honestly, like right now, we're in the middle of like one of the best seasons of Star Trek in years. Having 2 episodes to listen to, I don't feel like isn't in position. I guess it's just like, hey, let's talk. Like, you know, if we're watching a show that's a little less interesting and a lot. I mean, you can tell by the people writing in, like. We've been doing the show a while, and Stu has been our loyal feedback giver. I call him the caretaker. We are the little Okampas, and he's providing us with the sustenance of feedback that we need every week. But you know, every week we're having 6-7 people write in, and you know, there's a few hundred of you guys listening, and we appreciate every one of you. But like, absolutely. You know, to me. When you see feedback, it is a sign of engagement. It's a sign that other people are listening, and not just listening, but they're like listening enough they want to get into the conversation. So I love it. That's why I feel like these are worth it. Because if we were doing 6 or 7 feedbacks on a review episode, it would be like 2 hours long, or it would be, or we'd have to keep everything so short that it wouldn't. It'd feel like we weren't giving it its due.
That's true.
Anyway, this is all a conversation we could have had off the cast. Sorry.
It is, but I like giving people a little look behind the curtain. Yeah,
behind our psyche and how we're like, how we stress out about like making the shows good and not flooding people's feed with bullcrap.
Yeah,
I'm excited. We finally started it. We've been talking about it for a long time. Over on the MCU cast, we started this week. We're dropping it Monday. Our rewatch of the Infinity Saga, which I think is going to be a really fun and interesting thing to do because we're going back to Iron Man and just starting over and rewatching each of the movies and talking about how they seem different in the light of what's coming and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's dropping Monday, and I don't know. It's exciting because like right now with this big drought of content, it's just exciting to have something like that to look forward to and do something kind of neat and interesting as the months of Marvel just not even announcing anything drone on. Pretty upset about it.
They gotta reconfigure, man. They gotta figure out what's coming next after Ant-Man failed so spectacularly.
Yeah, I haven't seen the numbers on the. Has it failed? I haven't even looked at the numbers or whatever. I know it failed critically.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
It did fail critically. I have no idea.
Like. And by failed critically, I don't know that it. Yeah, I just don't even know. I know that like it got worse. Yeah, it got worse on Rotten Tomatoes. So I guess that's like a good whatever that it failed critically. A good metric.
It's not. It doesn't mean shit.
Right.
Honestly, like I hate Rotten Tomatoes.
Oof. Yeah. I will say it failed compared to most other Marvel projects. Oof.
Yeah.
Right now it's at 463 worldwide. Which, you know, a number of them hit 1 billion, and I haven't seen. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of these hit like 600,000 and 700,000, and I don't think this one's going to make that.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. I legitimately think Rotten Tomatoes is bullshit. Like,
sure, yeah.
One, like, it's just, you know, aggregate bullshit. But the what kills me is just like when you look at it, people are always like, "Oh man, 47%," and you're like, "What was the audience score?" Because critics are assholes.
Oh yeah. The audience score is what matters. I do think that Quantum Mania got a slightly lower audience score than normal, but it was still like in the 80s. You know, it wasn't like it got 30 or something.
It's just like the like Shazam Fury of the Gods got like 51 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes, but then like the audience score was like 80 something. Come on.
Even I give Quantumania. I love it. I have a lot of fun with it. Like, it's a really fun watch. But there are a few little issues that just feel like somebody wasn't paying attention or something. Like, you know, somebody didn't care enough to, like, provide us with the like, necessary thing to suspend disbelief. And when you're in this world of, like, fantasy and it's all nothing but CGI liquid around everybody, like, you need all the pieces to fit together well. And some of that stuff just didn't seem to do that. And it's like very small little cracks, but those small little cracks make you feel like, who wasn't paying attention in that moment? Like, how are you going to make this multi-million-dollar movie and not pay attention to this little thing that could have, one line could have fixed it, but it feels like it's hollow. And then it just feels like who's steering the ship, and that's never been a problem for Marvel before. And so that's, I think, my big issue with Ant-Man Quantumania. It's my big issue is there's little small issues, and like there's been problems with Marvel movies where like the villains sucked. It's just like almost like aesthetic problems, right? Like there's aesthetic problems with this movie. Like, okay, I could see why someone would do that, but I didn't like it. That villain like didn't do whatever for me, but this movie has little like almost like canon problems, or you feel these little things. I mean, I can tell you one of them if you want to hear. If
that's fine. I haven't seen it yet.
Spoiler alert! I'm going to talk about Quantumania. You know, it's about the four of them go down into five of them go down into the quantum realm, and they meet the first kind of our second version of Kang we're going to meet since Loki. You know. They go down. Janet's been there, knows all about Kang, never told them about Kang, which, okay, you never told them about Kang because, like, you never thought they'd encounter him, whatever. But then she still won't tell them what's going on. It's, like, way into the movie, like 3/4 of the movie before she, like, gives them the lowdown. Like, they're kind of running for their lives at some points, but it's like, there's no reason. In the first moment they're there, she doesn't just go like, okay, guys, I never thought we'd have to be here. I never thought you'd have to worry about this, but there's an evil, despot ruler here who is going to try to kill us. You know what I mean? Like that, something like that. As soon as you get down there, we're running for our lives from an evil dictator. Like, that's what you got to do. Like, and apparently she was like a freedom fighter down there and stuff. Like, her years down in the quantum realm.
Things you would mention.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing, is like, it feels like there's just no reason for her not to mention it. And it feels like, it makes the whole movie feel kind of like, this is all predicated on Janet not preparing them, like, for what they were going into.
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't have set up the quantum beacon that led them into the quantum realm if Janet had told them what was up.
Yeah.
That
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I made it make sense on the podcast, and I really like this take. And it is, she never told them because she knew Hank couldn't resist the technology that was down there. Like, if she told him the power of Kang, that is because it adds to the characterizations, right? Like, it makes you think about, she loves Hank but doesn't trust him. You know, like, that's a great fix.
Yeah.
That's all you needed. You needed that line. Like, you tell me if I had told you Kang was down here, you wouldn't have been down here 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, you would have been immediately coming after his technology because your lust for technology and power. Like, it would have been perfect. So they just needed something. They don't have to do my thing, but like something needed to be there, some sort of thing, and they just didn't do it. And it feels like this.
But your thing was so good.
My thing was really good. I really like it a lot. But like, and it literally took me 3 seconds to come up with, too. So I'm sure there are writers out there who could come up with something better. It's just like, why did you leave this hole in the movie? And there's just a few little things like that feel like they were setting something up, and then it just like they're setting something up with this Cassie versus Scott ideology difference, and then it just disappears from the movie. It's like clearly there's some sort of script change or something, or during shooting they changed the direction or they edited some stuff, and it just feels like that's just gone. And yeah, I don't know. There's just little things like that. There's a line at one point that Ant-Man screams that like doesn't really make sense in the context of this storyline, but there's these imagined storylines that people have kind of put together based on what they introduced. That line would have made sense if this had happened in the movie, but it didn't happen in the movie. They took it out or they edited something. You know, there's little stuff like that you're like most of the movie is great and funny and fun and like exciting, and Kang is terrifying and all that stuff, but like there's just these little holes, and that's not what Marvel normally does. That's not the way that Marvel fails when it has failures, and it makes it feel like someone didn't have their hand on the wheel or something, and it makes it feel like something that's shaking up maybe is going like, hey, who let that happen? You know, like who let that hole stay in the movie? Anyway. So that's what we've been discussing way too much over in the MCU cast, because like that's all they have out to. Here's the problem: is you get like, okay, yeah, there's a problem, they need to fix it, and they need to stop and retool, whatever. But that leaves shows like ours, all these YouTube shows. All we have to talk about right now is Quantum Mania. So you have a problem. You left this big like, you know, turd on the floor, and that's overstating it. It is really, really good, but they left these like. You left this piece of pottery that is wonderful but has cracks in it on the floor. Yeah. And like that's all we have to talk about for like the next 4 months. You know, it's like so we're just sitting here talking about like people are writing in and like giving us good headcanon, like maybe it's because of this. I'm like, yeah, that's really good. Wish that was in the movie. Like it's just like you know. Yeah. So it's just a thing. I don't even remember how we got on this. We were talking about something that related to that idea.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah. So I get why that score is lower than the average Marvel movie, because it's not. It just doesn't even feel like an aesthetic difference. It feels like actual problems with the movie, which sucks. I really hate that. But anyway. That's how it is. That's how it be, though. Anyway, again, these are all conversations that this is not the place for, but I'm glad you hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoy us imposing ourselves on you like this. All right. Good to talk to you, Dave. Jolan True.
Good to talk to you too, man. Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.